The regular season has ended. We know the top 18 picks, so I wanted to do another mock draft and see where we go. Thanks so much for being here. Consider liking and subscribing, and let's get right into it. So the Bears getting the number one overall pick to me makes this draft incredibly interesting. I think that that's a prime spot for them to trade back to somebody that's QB desperate. I'm not going to do any trades in this one. I might experiment with that once we know all 32 spots, and maybe see a little bit of free agency as well. But the Bears, if they have to stay here, I think Will Anderson's the pick. He's probably the best prospect, and he's a position of need. They're not going to go quarterback. They like Justin Fields. They could go wide receiver, but I don't think with the number one overall pick you're going to do that. No one is that level of talented to me. The Texans won their way out of the number two or out of the number one overall pick, but in this scenario they still get their quarterback. I think Bryce Young's still the pick, although Stroud had a really good performance against Georgia. He's got the bigger size. Bryce Young, people could be worried that he might be another Kyler Murray. But I'm going to go with Bryce Young here, and we'll see what happens. Cardinals. As of today, the time I'm recording this, Cliff Kingsbury has been fired, and their GM stepped down. So it's going to be a whole new regime. Kyler Murray's still under a massive contract. So whoever comes in, I think, is going to have to stick with him, at least for next year. So to me, Jalen Carter makes the most sense. J.J. Watt's retiring, so bolster that defensive line a little bit, and Jalen Carter's just an absolute beast. So that makes a lot of sense there. Colts are up at 4. They need a quarterback. They need a head coach, unless they're going to actually keep Jeff Saturday around in his 1-7 record. We'll see what happens there. I'm going to go with C.J. Stroud. If he makes it to 4 and the Colts are sitting there, I think they just go ahead and grab him. So the Seahawks are up. They could do a lot of things. They're not going to go wide receiver. They have a pretty solid secondary. I think edge rusher makes a lot of sense. There's potential they could go offensive line. I'm curious what they think that they need. Edge, safety, interior offensive line, and wide receiver. Miles Murphy just makes too much sense. He's the second best edge rusher, and he's available. So go ahead and grab him. The Lions, I love where the Lions are. I think Jared Goff is a good enough quarterback to run it back with. They've got good, talented receivers. They've got good running backs. Offensive line is pretty solid. I think defense is the key. They've got to go get some good guys on that side of the ball. Kelly Ringo makes a lot of sense. You could argue for either one of the linebackers. To me, I'm going to take Kelly Ringo, best corner in the draft, and you can really bolster that secondary and see where you go from there. They've got another pick in the first round, 18, so they might be able to pick up another one of those positions later. The Raiders, up at 7, they are in a very interesting situation. Derek Carr is probably going to be either cut or traded based on the conversations that they had. So quarterback is definitely a need. It's possible that they go wide receiver because they need some help at wide receiver. They were relying on, their third and fourth guy because people couldn't stay healthy, especially Darren Waller. Quentin Johnson or Jordan Addison makes a lot of sense. If they get rid of Derek Carr and don't bring in, if they don't have Derek Carr and they haven't replaced him with anybody by the draft, a quarterback makes a lot of sense, either Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. To me, Will Levis makes more sense in a Josh McDaniel type offense, although I'm not a huge fan of his. I don't know. I don't know where things are going to land. So for right now, I'm going to pick a wide receiver. I feel like if they trade away Derek Carr, they'll try to get a young prospect in return, or maybe they'll go out and sign one of these free agent quarterbacks just to make it through a year. They're both really good. Jordan Addison's a West Coast guy. He's a deep threat, speedy guy. I think he fits more what they want. I'm going to go there. Falcons are up. They need wide receiver. Plain and simple. They need wide receiver. They're gonna. I know they went Drake London, but they traded away Calvin Ridley. There's not much else there. You've got Desmond Ridder that's going to probably start next year. You got to figure out some talent on that side of the ball. You get them another weapon, and you cruise on. They need it, so that's where I'm going. The Panthers are up. They're going to take the quarterback that's on their board. To me, it could be Anthony Richardson, but I think it's Will Levis. Will Levis has been the higher projected prospect for the majority of the time. Richardson's more viewed as more of a long-term project, but super high ceiling. Will Levis is the more pro-ready. We saw that with Kenny Pickett versus Malik Willis last year. So I'm going to go with Will Levis, the guy that can step in and potentially compete with Sam Darnold right away. Eagles are up. I have made this pick a couple times. I love Bijan Robinson to the Eagles. They've got all the other weapons they need. Their defense is high level. They don't have many needs. He's a luxury pick, and this is, you were the number 1 seed in the NFC, and you somehow end up in the top 10 with a pick that you traded for. So you get Bijan Robinson. Congratulations, Eagles. The Titans are up. They might would have liked to have Robinson if they think Derrick Henry's at the end of his tenure, but they've got an offensive line that makes a lot of sense, and wide receiver they've got to replace the talent there. Keyshawn Boots there. Let's see here. It would pretty much be him or Smith and Jigba, Paris Johnson, Peter Skoronski. You're not going to draft a guard this high, so pretty much it's going to be Boot or Paris Johnson. I think the value is greater for Paris Johnson. A lot of people like Skoronski. I've seen him going up a lot of draft boards. But offensive tackle makes a lot of sense there, especially if you're going to stick with Willis, give him some protection. And wide receivers, you should be able to pick one up in the second round. So the Texans are back up at 12. We got them their quarterback. They need everything. They need a wide receiver. Brandon Cooks is probably going to be gone after the season. And there's not much behind him. So let's go ahead and get them Keyshawn Boot or Bout. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but wide receiver out of LSU. New York Jets, they're up. They are going to definitely need some offense. They need to figure out their quarterback position. It's possible they could draft a quarterback, but I don't see them spending that draft capital. They'll probably bring in a vet to compete with Zach Wilson. And as he said today, he's going to give him hell. One of the linebackers makes a lot of sense. And beyond that, I mean, their defense was really good. But I'm going to go with Trenton Simpson. I'm going to give them Trenton Simpson out of Clemson. Strong linebacker and should be able to fit in immediately. Patriots are up. Patriots. I had them drafting a quarterback in another one. Since then, I'm pulling back from that. I think if they go quarterback, it'll be in free agency or trading. Maybe a Jimmy G reuniting with Bill Belichick. They need wide receiver, but where we are in the draft, they could reach for an Njigba. They've got them needing wide receiver, corner, linebacker, edge. So a lot of defense, which is kind of crazy because they still had a pretty solid defense. So really, it could be any one of these 5 guys. I like their corners. I know that they've got some aging guys, especially in the secondary safety. It's going to be best player available to them. And to me, Brian Bresie's not it. He doesn't have the statistics to back it up. He's got some pretty good film. I think Joey Porter Jr. is the best corner on the board, and they take him right there. Packers, another team that needs a receiver. Christian Watson proved to be pretty high level. Randall Cobb's old. Alan Lazard was often injured, but did okay. What's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers? Are they going to trust Jordan Love? I think they got to give Jordan Love one year. They drafted him in the first round. If Rodgers is gone, they got to rely on Love. Let's see what they've got them needing. Quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, edge. So, haven't talked about him yet, but Michael Mayer's just an absolute monster out of tight end out of Notre Dame. I don't know if he'll go that high. There could be a team that falls in love with him and goes that direction. But let's give them Njigba. Let's give them a talented wide receiver. Ohio State receivers and LSU wide receivers have just been all the rage lately, and they've been successful. So I think that's a good pick for them. And then Washington is up. Sam Howell had a really good game in Week 18. Nothing like to blow you away and say automatically he's number 1, but I think he'll compete. I think their 2 routes are Sam Howell and you draft a late like a second or third round rookie and just have them compete, or you bring in a veteran and he gets to compete with him. I don't think Heineke is going to be in the conversation for that, and I think because of that, I think he doesn't return. He's a free agent, so he'll end up on another team where he's surefire the number 2. Sam Howell's going to be cheaper, and I think he proved he can at least be the number 2. So quarterback won't be it here. They need defensive tackle most likely because Deron Payne is going to be gone, but they've got the rookie Philip Mathis that never played. Let's see what they've got them needing. Secondary is for sure a need. Quarterback, corner, safety. So let's get them the next best corner on the board in Cam Smith. Let's go ahead and get him out of South Carolina. Corner makes a lot of sense for them. And then the Steelers are up. So the Steelers had a good season. Kenny Pickett looks good. They need offensive line help clearly. So, I'm gonna quote unquote reach for Peter Skoronski. I really like him, and Northwestern to me has just had a good run of offensive linemen. They build them different out there. The Lions are back up. I think they go defense again. We had them go with Kelly Ringo in the first pick and second pick. You've got a great linebacker and a great defensive tackle right here. They're not going to go edge rush. I think they like what they've got, and they don't want to spend 2 picks in a row on a pure pass rusher. So I'm going to go with Sewell out of Oregon. Give them a good linebacker, back up that line, and help in the run stopping. Buccaneers are up. Another very interesting team with where they are with Tom Brady. Is he going to play again? If he does play, will it be in Tampa? He's a free agent. He can go wherever he wants. Rumors are going to be spiraling. I like Anthony Richardson here. Even if you know for a fact Brady's coming back and will play the entirety of next year. Maybe you get a guy that can learn under him, and Richardson would be a guy to me that would benefit from a year to rest or learn. Let me look. Edge, corner. Tyree Wilson makes sense as well. But you know what? I'm gonna go with Anthony Richardson. I would love to see him in Tampa with those weapons, and maybe a year to learn behind the GOAT. Seahawks are back up, so the Seahawks are in a still interesting situation because they've got to figure out what they want. What they want at quarterback. Geno Smith is probably the guy for at least another year. He's definitely earned that in my mind, but. Let's go. Let's see here. Edge, safety, guard, wide receiver. I don't think they need it. I mean, they could use a third wide receiver, but not a first round. Tyree Wilson makes a lot of sense. Brian Branch makes a lot of sense. Let's go with Branch. I love Alabama secondary players. I love all Alabama defensive players, to be honest. So that makes a lot of sense to me here. Jaguars, they're up, made the playoffs. Congratulations to them. First team maybe in history, but I know at least a long time that had the first overall pick that they earned and ended up in the playoffs. They need some secondary, and Christian Gonzalez is here. Let's just go ahead and get him picked and on the board. Giants need a wide receiver desperately. I don't know if they can reach. I've watched Josh Downs play a lot, being that I'm from North Carolina. He is talented. He is fast. He reminds me a little bit of Kadarius Toney. Hopefully not the same personality traits, at least when in New York. He seems to be doing fine in Kansas City, as I think anybody would. But I don't know if they can do that. Michael Mayer makes sense here. Guard, linebacker, corner, safety. They've got a lot of defense needed, but they had a solid defense. I think they go weapon. I'm going to give them Michael Mayer. And if Daniel Jones is returned, there's a very good safety blanket for him, and a stud. He can block and catch. So Ravens, another one. Got to figure out their quarterback situation. I think Lamar at the end of the day gets signed. They're going to figure out the money, make it work. They need offensive line. They need a wide receiver and some defense, it looks like. Offensive line, Broderick Jones is here. They need a receiver. We've just talked about that. I don't know if there's anybody worth it at this point. We'll see after the combine. But I don't know. We can look at corner, Clark Phillips, Eli Ricks, another Alabama one. Linebacker. All the Alabama defenders are right here. Texas A&M safety Antonio Johnson, defensive tackle. Breesy's a great value, and he has dropped at this point. Like I said, he doesn't have the crazy stats, but the film looks really good. I'm going to go with him right here. Chargers up. Chargers are going to need a wide receiver with Keenan Allen really both of their wide receivers, Mike Williams, will being often injured. They need an offensive tackle and then some defense. We got a lot of defense. Oh, that's because I'm looking at defensive tackles. How about that? A couple edge rushers, offensive tackle, edge. So I think edge rush is going to be there's going to be a run on edge rush around here just because of the value. Offensive tackle, I think they've got to consider that, but they've got Khalil Mack and they've got I'm blanking. Joey Bosa, pass rusher. So I don't know. Makes sense to bring in a young guy because you can't pay both of those guys long term. I'm going to go Broderick Jones. You know what? I'm going to give them an offensive tackle, keep Justin Herbert upright, and then we get to Dallas. Dallas is going to need wide receiver, guard, linebacker, corner. Let's give them Clark Phillips out of Utah, give them some secondary help. They had a lot of injuries in the secondary this year, and that showed up against Washington this week. But I think that would make sense for them, and we'll see if Dan Quinn's still their defensive coordinator at the end of this. I think he's destined for another head coaching job. Bengals are up, need offensive line, could probably use an edge rusher. So let's go ahead and start that. Ojulari, Tyree Wilson, and Foskey. I think Wilson's just going to be the highest rated at that point. Ojulari, to me, has great film and will probably pop at the combine, but, LSU edge rusher, probably going to get drafted in the first round. Vikings, defense. I think let's give them Ojulari. They need defense desperately. They probably need secondary a little bit more, but for the value, I think you just stick there. Broncos also need an edge rusher. Will they jump at Isaiah Foskey if he's still there? Do they go with a defensive tackle? Let's go ahead and let's give them Foskey. Let's have the three edge rushers in a row. Let me know which ones you like the best. I'm going to be honest, I haven't seen a ton of Foskey. I just want to be honest on that one. The Bills are up 29. They're going to need a few things. I need to look at who their upcoming free agents are. Running back, they're not going to take one here. If Bijan Robinson drops to them, I think they'll go that direction. Nyheim Hines, to me, is a steal for them. And he had 2 return touchdowns. So I don't know that they would prioritize that. They need interior linemen and safety and corner. So you've got a safety and a corner right here. Eli Ricks, I do like Eli Ricks. Alabama, I'm biased to Alabama secondary. I'm going to give them Eli Ricks. Chiefs are up. They edge rush, corner, defensive tackle. Let's go ahead and look at just defense. Safety, Toto. They don't really need that. Defensive tackle, offensive tackle, and edge. Let's give them Javon Dexter out of Florida. And then to the Eagles, they're going to take their best player available right here because I'm still convinced they just don't need that much. Linebacker, corner, and edge, and safety, defensive tackle. So all defense is what they've got listed. I gave them Bijan Robinson, so we should probably give them a defensive player. And let's do that by giving them Antonio Johnson. And that's going to wrap it up. So that's our full results. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did make it this far, I truly hope that you'll consider subscribing. Would love to hit 1,000 subscribers by the time the Super Bowl's around. If we do, I'll do a special stream for the Super Bowl. And I'll give more details on that if we get closer. But appreciate everybody watching, and I'll see y'all next time.